Hey everybody, it's Emily at Arc Schooling, and today I'm going to bring you my September book haul. We are only halfway through the month, and I've already way exceeded my book buying purchases for the month, but so I decided I should just go ahead and haul these now, and hopefully I won't buy any more until next month. But most of these are purchases that I made to start working on grade 11 for Build Your Library, so there's my excuse for spending money on books, because I gotta work on that. I'm going to try to get a head start this year and start working on it a little early, because last year I felt like I was cramming at the last minute, and I don't like that feeling. It's very stressful. So I want to start working on that a little bit earlier in the year. So I'm going to start with the books that I didn't buy for grade 11, and then I'll show you the ones I got for that. So one of the first books I bought just caught my eye because it just has this beautiful cover, and that is The Doll Maker of Krakow. This is by R.M. Romero. It's a new release in middle grade historical fiction placed during World War II, and it's hard to explain, but from what I'm getting from it, it weaves mythology and fairy tales and folklore from Eastern Europe, like Poland and that part of the world, in with what's actually happening with, I want to say they're hiding a Jewish child in their house. So it just sounds right up my alley. The cover is just stunning. It's beautiful. So I'm very intrigued. I'm looking forward to reading this. I also picked up a copy of The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. I've already read the series. I loved it, but I borrowed them from the library, so I don't actually own them, and I'm like, why don't I own these? They're like my favorite books. So I went ahead and bought a copy. My daughter hasn't read it yet, and I'm hoping that she will. I might even do it as a read aloud for my teens because it's just so good. I want to experience it again. So we might do this as a read aloud. I haven't decided yet, but this series, you guys, is so good. If you haven't read it yet, you must go pick it up. It's sort of science fiction, but it's hard to explain. It's these people have colonized this new planet, so there's the science fiction element, but there's not a lot of space stuff in it. It's just they're on this planet, and part of being on this planet is in this world you can hear thoughts, like every single thought from every male and every animal. But women cannot do this. You can't hear a woman's thoughts, and women can't hear men's thoughts. There's already these beings that live there that the people who've colonized it are kind of like pushing off their land and trying to make them slaves, and it's about this boy who lives in this colony where it's only men at this point. They've gotten rid of all the women. You don't really know what happened to the women. They never really explain it, but just that the women are gone. There are no women left. And so he is the youngest boy, and he has to go through this coming of age ceremony, and he's nervous about it, and then one day he stumbles across a girl. And then the rest of the story takes off from there. And it's just so good. And Manchi, his dog, Manchi, is just exactly what you would think a dog would sound like. And it's so sweet. Oh, yeah, I want to read this again. I picked up a couple of books. We're going to be going, my daughter, my husband, and I, we're going to be going to a horror book festival thing for Halloween. They do it every year in a library not too far from us, and this is the first I've heard of it, but there's like 50 authors. They're going to have Joe Hill there signing and releasing his new book a couple days early. I'm so excited about it. So anyway, my daughter was like, well, do you know any books that I should read of the authors that are going to be there? And I looked through the list, and I only knew a couple of them. They're all local authors to New England. So I went ahead and picked up a couple books for us to read to kind of prepare. I've already hauled a Christopher Golden book I picked up for this, but I also have Roses and Rot by Kat Howard. It's a kind of eerie story that takes place in a boarding school with two sisters. I don't know a whole lot more than that, but it was plugged by Neil Gaiman on the cover, so I was like, okay, we're going to read this, because this author will be there, Kat Howard. So I am very intrigued. Also picked up Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay because he will be there, and I've heard this book mentioned a couple different places on BookTube, and I've been wanting to read it. I've been waiting for this book to come out in paperback because I bought the first book in paperback and I wanted them to match. And then they released it in paperback, and it's a different cover. the rage that I felt about this. I bought the book anyway because I want to read it, but this no longer matches my copy. And I'm not going to buy a new copy of the first book just so that I can match them, but I'm just, why do they do this? It's a sequel. It's not like they've had this long-running series that needed a new cover. It's a sequel. It doesn't have to not match. It doesn't have to be new. Why? Usually this kind of thing doesn't bother me, but when I specifically waited so that I could match them, it bothered me. Anyway, I loved the first book in this series, An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, and I really want to know what happens next. So I had been waiting because I wanted to buy it and I wanted it to match. So I finally picked up A Torch Against the Night. I'm really looking forward to reading this because I need to know what happens. Yesterday, we went to the Granite State Comic-Con and I was very good. I didn't buy that many books. Actually, I didn't buy hardly any books at all because I was waiting because I know I'm going to buy books when I go to the horror book festival for Halloween. I'm going to go nuts. So I was like, I'm not going to buy any books today. There was a couple authors there and I did look, but I didn't buy anything. But then this jumped out at me. They had an Usborne booth and I had to pick it up. It's Usborne's Write and Draw Your Own Comics. It's like an interactive book with stickers and activities, and my daughter is always making up her own comics, so I thought this would be really fun for her to use. It's just a really fun book. You can write in it, there's stickers, it's just awesome. So I'm hoping that she will get a lot out of it. I also picked up this bookish t-shirt. I don't know if you guys can see what it says. I couldn't pass it up. This next big pile of books here, these are all the ones that I've been kind of picking up with intentions to use in grade 11. Will they actually be in grade 11? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know yet. I tend to overbuy because I think I need everything, but then I start like actually compiling my lists and going through and seeing what I really actually need, and that usually dwindles down, so I won't necessarily use all of these, but I bought them all with intentions that maybe they'll fit in grade 11. Also, grade 11, if you're wondering, will be the second half of world history, so Renaissance through modern. So the first book I picked up, I saw recommended through, I want to say, the C Homeschoolers group, and I had to pick up a copy. And this is the history book. It's by DK, and it's Big Ideas Simply Explained. I needed another spine because you'll see why, but this looks like it could be a very interesting book. It's got a lot of information and it's written in an interesting way. I really like the little timeline thing they've got going in here. I don't know if you guys can see that. But I don't know, it might work, it might not, I don't know yet. But I liked the layout quite a lot and it just looks like a really good resource. So this is a possibility for grade 11. One of the electives that I have been planning on having in grade 11 is History of the English Language. I've always found that topic fascinating and I always want to learn more about it, so I thought it would be kind of interesting to do that. So with that in mind, I have picked up Bill Bryson's The Mother Tongue, English and How It Got That Way. If it's Bill Bryson, I'm probably going to want to read it because his books are just so much fun to read. He's very witty and he has a really interesting way of explaining things, and I love his writing. So I am very excited for this book. I also picked up Depraved and Insulting English, and this is by Peter, I will never be able to pronounce that, Peter Novobatsky and Ammon Shea. This is actually more like a dictionary than anything else, so this is sort of just a fun extra. I don't know if I'll use it or not, but it's got a lot of interesting words. Basically, all the words in here are words that are no longer in use anymore, but that are ways to insult people. So it just looked really fun, so I wanted to get a copy and look at it. And finally, I have Say What? The Weird and Mysterious Journey of the English Language by Gina K. Gorel. And this is similar in theme to The Mother Tongue in that it just talks about how English became English. Of course, I bought the next two in the cartoon history books, but as you can see, they are both a little on the short side, so I'm a little bit nervous that I don't know how this is going to work now. It will not flow as nicely as the grade 10 did because those were 3 books and they were all a little bit longer. I have The Cartoon History of the Modern World Part 1, and that's from Columbus or Explorers, so the late 1400s through about the mid 1700s. And then I have The Cartoon History of the Modern World Part 2, and this one covers from about the late 1700s, so where the last one left off, right after the American Revolution, all the way to modern day. It says to Baghdad, but it's pretty much up to after 9/11. So I don't know how this is going to work now because these are a little bit shorter, so I'm going to have to do some finagling to make this work. But I think it's still doable. I'm just going to have to add an extra spine like the other book I just showed you. I also picked up as a possible history book The Age of Wonder, and this is by Richard Holmes, and it's all about the scientific revolution in the 1700s. And it covers all sorts of different scientists and their discoveries. So this looks like a really potentially good book. I don't know, I have to read it still, but it sounds interesting and it sounds like it might be a good fit for the grade 11 time period. And the other nonfiction I picked up is Bill Bryson's Shakespeare, because again, Bill Bryson, I just want to read all of his books, but I wanted something on Shakespeare and I saw he had a book on that, and so I had to get it. And it's also relatively short, so it might not be as intimidating as some of the other books I have. And then I did buy a few literature. I actually was, after I did a walkthrough of my home library, it's like I actually already own a lot of books that I could use that would be a really good fit in grade 11, so I didn't have to buy very much. But there were a couple books that I had been kind of looking at as potential, so I went ahead and picked them up. I have Upon the Head of a Goat, A Childhood in Hungary, and this is by Aranka Segal, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And honestly, I'd been eyeing this mainly for the title. I mean, obviously, it's also a childhood in Hungary, and my family history is Hungarian, so I do think that is a very interesting topic that I would want to explore more. And it's about her life during the war years. She was a child during World War II in Hungary, and I believe she was also Jewish. Yeah, because they're taken to Auschwitz. So yeah, so it's a Jewish girl who lived in Hungary during a time that some of my relatives were living in Hungary. So I'm very interested to read more about it. I don't know if this is actually going to fit in grade 11 or not, but I still want to read it. So it's a potential, because that's how I work, you guys. I'm like, oh, I want to read that, and I can also make it fit. So I also picked up The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I've been hearing that this is a really good book, and I love the cover. It's a Russian fairy tale that I think is also mixed with some history. I'm not sure how much of this is fantasy and how much of this is more historical fiction, but I want to read it and find out. And again, I think it could be a nice potential fit for grade 11. I have Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi, which I have been hearing so much about all over BookTube, and I've been really wanting to pick it up. And then I started thinking that, you know, it would also make a nice fit with grade 11 if after I read it. But I think that could potentially be a nice book to study, the African slave trade and all of that. So I'm just very interested in reading this for me, but also to see if it will fit in grade 11. And the last book I have is Every Falling Star by Sung-Ju Lee, and this is about escaping North Korea. About this person's escape from North Korea and what it's like to live there. And I just think that that's an important topic to be reading, especially with how much North Korea is in the news right now, that it's important to know a little bit about what that is and what their country is like and why it's important that something is done about what's happening there. Those are all the books that I bought. I did maybe get a slight bit carried away. Oh, what did I end up with here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, oh no, I did this backwards. 16, 17, 18, 18 books. I have a lot of books. So, But I'm going to try not to buy any more this month because, like I said, I know I'm going to probably buy too many books at the Halloween Book Festival next month, and I want to try to like rein it in so that I can justify that. So, have you gotten any new books lately? I'd love to hear about it. Let me know down below in the comments and we can chat. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye!